Well, welcome everyone to another delicious, nutritious adventure. This event is in collaboration with Plant-Based Nutrition Movement. My name is Carrie Bruno. I'm a pharmacist, PBNM board member, and your host for tonight's event. Plant-Based Nutrition Movement is a nonprofit organization, and our mission is to educate, inspire, and support those moving towards an evidence-based, whole, minimally processed, plant-based way of eating as a way to improve health and quality of life at all ages. This particular event is open to anyone interested in health and wellness, whether you've never heard about a plant-based diet, are curious about trying it, or have already been following this way of eating for many years. We're all here to learn and to help each other along the way. With this in mind, these events will focus on seasonal ingredients and practical tips, as well as having guest speakers share their experiences and healing stories with us. There are many definitions of an adventure. It may take on a whole new meaning to every individual. However, an important part of most adventures is exploring an area and maybe trying new cuisines. For these events, we'll be traveling the world, looking to various cultures to learn what similarities and differences make them unique. And each culture uses combinations of herbs, spices, and other ingredients to make their food delicious and nutritious. And we hope you take this adventure with us, whatever your meaning and purpose for being here is. This specific event is held monthly on the third Tuesday of the month, and this program will be recorded and available for future viewing or sharing on the PBNM YouTube channel. These events are free to attend, and we welcome donations to pbnm.org to help cover our production costs. If you'd like to learn more information about this group, PBNM in general, and future events, go to pbnm.org. So with that, let me tell you about our agenda for today. We have two featured guests today, and we have three total speakers, I'll say. Our first speaker is Janet Pearson, and she is also a PBNM board member and a one-on-one plant-based coach. She's going to be starting us off with our seasonal segment and sharing some various Hungarian recipes and ingredients. So, and then after Janet, we have our featured guest for today, which is Jill Keb and Kathy Taylor. We're honored to have both of them with us today. They'll be sharing their plant-based health stories, as well as a quick and easy baked tofu recipe. And special surprise, they'll also be sharing about a unique plant-based adventure that they have to offer. So without further ado, we'll get started. Janet, would you like to start us off?
Thanks, Carrie. Welcome everyone who's watching our YouTube channel. Thanks for finding us and hope you continue. But today we decided to talk about Hungarian spices and foods because in honor of our guest, Jill, she and I had a conversation briefly to prepare for this show, and she said she grew up with Hungarian recipes that are mostly meat-based and lots of fat and oil and barbecue things that we don't eat anymore. So I did a little research. I wasn't familiar a whole lot with Hungarian specific foods, but one of my grandmothers was from Poland, which is pretty much next door to Hungary. So it seems like there's a lot in common. But the Hungarian traditional food, one ingredient that is prevalent is Hungarian paprika. And when I first heard about Hungarian paprika, I mean, I knew about paprika. Paprika is pretty much in all cultured recipes, from Italian to Mexican to, chilies and sauces and, Indian and curries and things. But Hungarian paprika, why is it so different? Well, most paprikas I've learned are from different types of peppers, and paprika is actually the Hungarian word for pepper. Explains it. So I learned a lot, and the Hungarian style paprika it's not smoked, but it has a fairly sweet taste to it. And it was actually the paprika was brought to Hungary or introduced to them by Turks who had brought the chilies, which are another word for peppers, to Hungary. And it's a very popular spice, giving the basic ingredients, which are potatoes, carrots, and a lot of peas and meat and chicken, of course. If you're not vegan, that's how we all grew up. But this adds the flavor to it and the color. It's a deep red color. And I noticed some of the recipes I was looking at, they don't just put a half a teaspoon of paprika in. It's usually a few tablespoons, 2, 3, 4 tablespoons in a pot. And a lot of their dishes are called goulashes, which is it's a Hungarian name for a soup or a thick stew with gravy and vegetables and meat. But since we are plant-based, what we do is we substitute the meat for tofu, soy curls, or chickpeas, and everything else pretty much remains the same. And what I wanted to share with you is our guest today is going to be actually demoing tofu, but an easier way to add soy curls or a meaty flavor to your meal would be Butler is the brand, and it's called soy curls. And it comes in a bag, and there's 8 ounces to the bag. And you could order them online. I've actually seen them in my area at a few stores, but it's just as easy to order online. The only ingredient, it's non-GMO, and the only ingredient is soy. So the plant-based world does use them quite a bit, and you use about half a bag for a recipe. And if you could see, I'm going to put this here. It almost looks like chicken, pieces of chicken, but they are dried and there's no batter. They're pretty interesting. And you just basically hydrate them with a water or a broth, and then add them to your soup or stew. You can make chicken soup, you can make Hungarian goulash with them. And if you don't have those, you could just add some chickpeas cooked, either cooked from dry beans or from a can. Pretty easy. But the paprika not only is the paprika the Hungarian signature spice, it is basically the Nobel Prize in 1937 was won in medicine with the discovery of vitamin C, experimenting with red peppers. And Dr. Albert Sen, let's see if I can pronounce his name, Sen George, he discovered vitamin C back in 1937, won the Nobel Prize, and the paprika type pepper was one of the ingredients that he experimented with. So I thought that was interesting to share. And I also, in my search online, I found several recipes and videos that I'm going to have the links in the show notes. So if you're not familiar with how the YouTube works, when you hit more after our video below the picture, you'll see the word more. You hit that and you will see a lot of links. And I have some of the recipes that I found sounded really good that I'm definitely going to try. Hungarian goulash is a lot of them have they're called goulash, which is a name for a stew in Hungarian. And then tomato pepper stew. There is eggplant in some of them. There's mushrooms and potatoes in other ones. I found some easy recipes with even cornbread dumplings, and also found a mushroom soup from Dr. Furman from his website, which is someone that is very well known in our plant-based world. And also, since bacon and smoky flavors are very prevalent, I've included a rice rice paper vegan bacon recipe that actually Jill, our guest, she was doing a live demo a few years ago that I attended, and I was just awed by making bacon out of rice paper. And so I found a recipe for that. And also I found a bacon homemade seitan recipe if you want to, for our advanced plant-based chefs, if they want to try their hand at making a seitan. So that's the background information. And then one of the paprikas that I like to use, I found it at Trader Joe's recently. It's a smoky paprika, and it also has a hot chili powder. And just a dash of it in my stews and soups makes all the difference. And you only need about 1/8 of a teaspoon. And here's another paprika that I like to use. And I usually want to always look for organic when I'm buying spices. And in order to give the soy curls a chicken or a meaty flavor, I do like to add the poultry seasoning. And I understand Jill is going to share a chicken type recipe that gives soups and stews that type of broth recipe or flavors. And then a lot of the recipes have tomato paste. And usually when you open a can of tomato paste, you never use the whole 6 ounces. So I found it recently in the Mirror Glen, a squeezy bag. Sometimes it comes in a tube, so it's easy to put in your refrigerator and just squeeze out a tablespoon or two as you need it. And then I thought I'd add the one of the store-bought type of products that I actually love and I usually have in my pantry regularly. It's Plant Strong, and this happens to be a white bean chili. Whenever I'm in the grocery store, I just tend to go to that aisle, see what's on sale, and a lot of times I pick up pantry staples such as this, and for half price, 25% off. And then this is a very mild one, they're low sodium, and I usually, today when I made it for lunch, I actually added some paprika to it and some chili powder to give it a little more color and a little more spice, because it was very bland. But it's nice for people that want to add. You could add an Italian or a Hungarian or whatever other type of nationality you have a flavor for that day. So we want to experiment with different spices and encourage everyone to do so and not be afraid to add some things to your recipes that you normally make. And that is my segment. So I'm going to turn it back over to Carrie if you'd like to introduce our guest.
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much for the recipes. I've not really had many Hungarian dishes and used many Hungarian ingredients, but now I'm inspired to try something new. And I have soy curls in my pantry, so I have all the ingredients.
Good.
So have you ever wanted to be on a getaway by a beach where all the food was whole food plant-based? Or learn to cook more crowd-pleasing recipes? Well, imagine this. You're in a historic resort town on Lake Michigan, about to be warmly welcomed into a large renovated home that faces the river, steps away from North Beach, where you can see the big red lighthouse and expansive views all around of Lake Michigan. You're about to step into your immersive cooking and yoga retreat for 4 or 6 days of whole food, plant-based food adventure and fun. You'll stroll the beach, take in sunsets, prepare healthy foods, and learn with friendly, caring people on a retreat that can absolutely change your life for the better. Jill, Keb, and Kathy Taylor are lifelong friends. They both grew up on the standard American diet and have since discovered the huge benefits of whole food plant-based eating for themselves. They created these wonderfully designed beachside cooking retreats to really help other people on their journey to optimal health. Kathy was one of 2 main executives to run a family business for over 28 years. She is a creative recipe developer and supportive listener. Kathy enjoys cooking nutrient-dense, delicious meals for her husband and 2 sons. Jill wrote and produced a 90-minute DVD called Change Your Food, Change Your Life. She's a certified food educator, food for life instructor, and yoga teacher. Faith, healthy food, people, and then everything else is how she strives to prioritize her life. Together, they run Plant Life Journey Retreats. Welcome, Jill and Kathy.
Thank you, Carrie. Thank you,
Thank
Janet.
you.
It's been so much fun. Well, those soy curls reminded me of when I was making the transition to like the standard American diet. It's like, oh no, what are you going to cook for dinner? I had little kids at the time, and it's all been such a big adventure. And Kathy and I try to make the adventure easier. You know, we were doing it alone without the support of, I mean, I had one friend who was vegetarian. At that time, I made the change. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about how I got into this lifestyle. And so thank you again for having us so we can share our stories and do this cooking demo hereafter. I noticed in pictures when I was little that I was kind of thin until my parents went through a divorce. After that, all my pictures started chubby. I was chubby kids, you know? And I do remember and know that I used food to comfort myself. And it really was, it turned into a not a healthy relationship. And it wasn't really healthy. Part of it was my mom didn't know. A lot of people had bologna sandwiches, Fritos, and chocolate milk for lunch every day. And, maybe a piece of fruit. But all in all, things weren't, as healthy as now we understand them, what we want to feed our kids. And I remember going to a buffet lunch, like in grade school, just trying to eat. And I think just using food. So that progressed to, I understand what it's like to binge eat. I understand what it's like to take food out of the garbage can after I threw it in there 5 minutes ago. Like, I don't want to eat that, but yes, I do. And just like some crazy stuff with food. I definitely planned long binges. I obsessed about food in general, ate a lot of unhealthy food, hid food from my family, stored just really like in the cycle of being overweight too and wanting to fix the overweightness. And then I couldn't do it. I would start a diet and I would fail. I would start eating again. I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop eating once I started. And so I really have a heart and I relate to people who struggle with weight and struggle with food issues. I don't even know exactly how it happened today that I don't have that, but I do know some of the processes I went through, and I'm progressing to be a healthier person. And part of it was figuring out nutrition and health are part of the story that I was forgetting. It was all weight, weight, weight. I want to be thin. I want to be thin. And I thought that was the only thing. Pretty much. I really wasn't obviously I knew I wasn't eating healthy. I was eating ice cream and chips and, but I didn't know how to be healthy. I didn't know what to eat. And it was a point in my life, I think I was really, really sick and tired of being sick and tired of this mental obsession and binge eating and all this stuff. So we had a friend who was working with my ex-husband, and she was staying with us at the house, and she was thin and a little older than me even, and had so much energy. And I wanted this. And I said, what are you doing? I noticed she wasn't eating what I was eating, and I wanted what she had. So she took me to bookstores. She said, yeah, let's go to some bookstores. I thought they would be weight loss books, and they weren't. They were more health related books, like maybe Diet for a New America by John Robbins of the Baskin Robbins empire. And there was a little book that really meant a lot to me, and I can't remember the name of that, but they were Fit for Life. There were a lot of books just talking about, cells and blood and healthy nutrients and what our bodies are made of and what kind of these nutrients that we need. And then they also went into the environmental impact of eating animals. And I think I had some curiosity about vegetarian people. I'm like, how do you do that? When I would run into a vegetarian person, I would just want to grill them. Like, what do you eat? And how do you live like that? And it was always so like, wow, that's really wild. But these books had me really thinking about the impact of, cutting down rainforests and the water that's needed to, create a hamburger, and like 1,400 gallons of water to create a hamburger. What? That's like more than a 7-minute shower, or I don't know. I don't remember the statistics, but there were so many things with these books, and it was the right time that I was looking for a change. And I remember one day I said, okay, I have to say I'm a vegetarian now. And that was a scary, scary thing to say, to admit to my family and some of my friends, but especially, my then husband, my mother-in-law, especially, like those 3 people were going to be greatly impacted. And my mother and my mother-in-law really did not like it. And people don't like it when you make these changes oftentimes. And I feel for that, because I kept having to say, I still love you, even though they enjoyed feeding me and they enjoyed loving me with these foods that I always enjoyed. So I really sympathized, because I too am a woman who likes to feed and show love in that way. So I just did as gentle of a job as I could with the people in my life as I was making these changes, and as I was having to, just try new recipes. And it really did take some time. And we've had it, you can make it a lot simpler than I did. And when people come to retreats, we just show you, this is how easy it can be. It doesn't have to be so complicated. And here's a bunch of recipes that are great, by the way, that everyone's going to love. So here you go. And we show you how to make them. But I didn't have that at the time. So it took a while. And I lost weight very quickly, and I've never had a weight problem since. So this is back when I was like 32, 34 maybe, and I'm, later 50s now. So that's been a real pleasure and joy to have the same size clothes in my closet for all these years after not having that issue, or, just a variety, size 14 to size 6. And I don't have that, the weight issue. And then I had other things happen too for me that were wonderful. My skin cleared. I didn't have hives anymore. I didn't have headaches. I was sleeping better. I didn't have sinus infections. And those were really plaguing me year after year. So a lot of really good things were happening at the time that I was dealing with, like, how do I eat out socially? But these good things kept me in it, And another thing that was also happening to me at the time was I started going to Overeaters Anonymous. And I worked that program with a sponsor. And I believe that helped me also to really just grow, like inner work stuff, healing past stuff, going through the steps with someone that you can trust is an impactful journey. Should that be your journey? For me, anyway, that was impactful and helpful. And I do invite my higher power into this food thing, because I couldn't do it. But with the help of, I would even say one time I was at a party, I went into the bathroom. I was all over I just wanted the food and the food obsession and all this food out. And I went into the bathroom and just got on my knees and prayed, let me just enjoy the people and not have it be about the food. So that kind of slow progression of focusing on people rather than trying to get that hit. I mean, I think for some people who are addicts like me, you're trying to fill something with that food, and it just doesn't work. It just never worked. So now the healthy food I'm eating is filling my body in a way where I feel good. I'm starting to feel full on healthy foods. And then you're just left sometimes with that desire just to eat, just to put food in your mouth. Or with the TV, it would be I bet a lot of binge eaters just eat in front of the TV or screen. Because for me anyway, it was like trying to zone out from the world or whatever. So anyway, it's been kind of a 2-step forward, 1-step back process after I realized, wow, I did give up all the meat at one time, but I still didn't give up eggs and fish and milk or dairy 100% at that same time. That took a little bit longer, but I had gained confidence now. And then when I was one day I was watching a Michael Clapper video, who's amazing. Dr. Michael Clapper has a lot of great videos, especially on dairy. And he, again, blew me away with whatever he was saying. And I cried. I'm like, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to give up the dairy and the eggs and the fish. And I am not a perfectionist with this. And I don't think that there should be, like Kathy and I say, don't shit on ourselves. Don't shit on ourselves. If we're eating this lifestyle over 90%, that's an A. So I sometimes, left in crazy situations when you're out, you might have a bite of this or something of that, but it's okay. I have grown tremendously. And yes, over 90% of my life is like this. And I'm even, I want to go more. I want to get to even more of a healthier diet where I incorporate more greens than I do, because I don't always get the greens in. But anyway, it's a great lifestyle. I've been so passionate about it because of what it did for me, not only physically, but I think emotionally and spiritually. And I can look those animals in the eyes today where, I can't even think about what the conditions they're in. And I watched enough of those videos. I don't want to see those anymore, but those are very impactful for people who want to be motivated to get out of standard American diet. And I think I better probably kind of end it here. But Kathy, if I forgot anything, we listen to each other's stories at retreat, so she can remind me if I forgot to say anything.
Yeah, no, I think you covered it. Just to clarify the you shouldn't should yourself. Meaning, shoulding yourself, meaning like telling yourself, I should do this, I should do that. Rather, this would be better for me. Because shoulding yourself is just kind of shaming yourself. And there's no shame here. Like, we just want to do better. It's
Right.
not about where we were, it's
Right.
about where we're going.
Right.
So,
Yay.
yeah. Yay. Good job.
And I'm just so blessed to work with Kathy at our retreats and listen to her story. I never get tired of listening to her story. So I hope my husband's lawnmower, our snow blower out there isn't too noisy, but I want to hear Kathy's story too again.
Well, thanks. I'll try and tell a briefer version of it maybe, but in 2002, I had my first son. Jill and I were pregnant at about the same time. She had her third child about 3 weeks before I had my first. And she had done a work wellness series at our company that lasted several weeks. It was once a week, I think it was, for several weeks. And she taught the power of plants to heal and make your body healthier, and demoed some of the food that we got to try. It was during our lunch. It was kind of cool. And while she was teaching this, a lot of the information that she taught was so impactful. It's like you're hearing all the science-backed information, science-backed studies and information that says this is what is most healthful for your body. And it's all making sense and it's all clicking. And when you hear the truth, it's like, that it's the truth. Like, you can just, everything, all the data is adding up, all the dots are being connected. So I loved it. And I would look forward every week to the next meal that we would do together for that series. And then when she was done teaching that series, and by the way, she was this really cute 9-month pregnant little belly, and I was this giant, like, oh my gosh, I'm just ready to go here. I just was not healthy and pregnant at the same time. And she was super fit, healthy pregnancy. And you could tell, her energy, you could tell how good she looked, like as far as the health of her skin and her hair and everything. So that information was so huge to me, but I didn't really implement it. It took me a long time to finally say, okay, I'm going to do this. And a lot of that was really basically distractions and excuses. And I think that's kind of how I've come to describe my time of life at that point, was just distractions and excuses. I was working full time. I had, I soon had that first child of mine, and then I had another one a few years later. And I was working a lot of hours, driving back and forth, a lot of time commuting and then working and then coming home and taking care of my kids. And my husband traveled a huge amount. So I was also taking care of the household by myself, groceries and everything. Everything just seemed like this huge mountain all the time to achieve. And I didn't really have the energy to do it because I wasn't eating healthy. My lunches at work would be grabbing what cookies were out on the counter. People would bring in treats and I'd be like, yay, treats, sugar. I love sugar. And that would be my lunch sometimes. And if it wasn't that, it was me running the closest fast food restaurant I could get to, McDonald's, White Castle, all the Wendy's close things that I could go and get something that I thought was healthy, like getting the grilled chicken sandwich instead of the crispy chicken sandwich. I just didn't know. So after that series, like I said, it took me a while. I was having a lot of digestive problems and I was in my early 30s. And it was to the point where I was having so much stomach pain and different issues digestively that I was sent for my first colonoscopy at, I think it was like 33, 34 years old. And when I met with the gastroenterologist afterwards, he said, well, we think it could be Crohn's. And we're going to have you take a medication and I'm going to prescribe you. And then also I want you to drink Metamucil every day. And I just looked at him. And at this point, I was not empowered. I looked at him as an authority and I just, it's the doctor and he's telling me to do this. And I managed to squeak out, well, can't I just eat more fiber in my diet? And he said, you'll never get enough that way. Just take the Metamucil and we'll see if this medication works. And this was a young doctor too. So you would think, he'd be a little more up on current information with food and health, but he was not. And I said, well, how long will I need to take that medication? And he said, well, for the rest of your life, if it works. And that just did not sit well with me. And it took me another year of not feeling well. I did not take the medication that he prescribed. I just thought I could kind of make some changes to my diet. But again, it was all still within the standard American diet. And it was a struggle because I was relying on what I thought and not what was really the facts. And so a few years later, I've had my second child at that point, and we're going on about 5 years since I went to that work wellness series that Jill had taught. I'm still eating the same standard American diet. I'm still struggling with weight, losing the baby weight, lack of energy, digestive problems, inflammation in my body, constant seasonal allergies turning into bronchial infections or sinus infections, taking a lot of ibuprofen and Sudafed, that kind of thing. And it was an evening where I was asked to play softball for a team that I used to play for, but I had kind of retired from doing that because I had my kids and I didn't have time. And so I wasn't supposed to be there, but I was subbing in. I was kind of excited because it was getting out of the house. And what happened in that game is that I was in center field and the ball's coming to me. I'm keeping my eye on the ball and it passes my mitt. And as soon as it passes my mitt, I realize, uh-oh, and it just hit me square on the eye and knocked me over and caused a lot of damage. But this led to a time in my life where I had no choice but to sit there upon healing from the surgeries and all the treatment and everything. I was in my home, sitting on the couch. I couldn't work. I couldn't take care of my kids. I couldn't do all the stuff that was distracting me and like watching TV, reading books even. I just couldn't do any of it. I had to just sit there with my head down because of retinal reattachment. You have to keep your head down 24/7 for weeks while it heals. And during that time, there was a lot of self-reflection. I grew in my faith. I also grew in my understanding of how precious our bodies are and that we need to take care of them. And we cannot control all these outside forces sometimes that happen to us, but we can choose what we're putting in our mouth and what we're eating. And we can educate ourselves better as to what those healthful choices are. and then make that part of our daily choices. So there was, for me, God was in the details. He got me where I needed to be, which was sitting quietly with my head down and listening. And that is when I really started thinking about all that stuff I learned from Jill during that work wellness series 5 years earlier. And I just made that decision within a couple months of, all this recovery and healing. I kind of made this decision. Okay, I'm not eating meat anymore. I didn't do anything about the dairy yet, but it was, I'm not eating any more meat. And it was trial and error, trying to figure it out. This was about 16 plus years ago. And there just wasn't the resources like there is now. And so I read the book Food for Life by Dr. Neil Barnard that Jill had recommended. And, a few years later, I watched Forks Over Knives, but along the way, I figured things out. It was a struggle, but I figured it out. But immediately, I could feel a difference just giving up the meat. That was really easy for me because I wasn't a huge lover of meat anyway. I didn't really care for red meat. And I had eaten so much chicken because of that it wasn't giving up anything to eat chicken, really. But I loved dairy. I loved ice cream. I loved cheese in all forms. But I did notice that when I ate pizza, especially the greasy, cheesy pizzas, that the stomach pains that I would have, I just thought, oh, this is normal. It's not normal. It's the cheese. And so within a few months of giving up the meat, I gave up the dairy, and my health radically changed. I lost a lot of weight, healthy amount of weight, and I had so much energy. And taking care of 2 little kids and working full time, that was huge for me to have all that energy back. And my skin was better, my hair was better. The stomach issues, digestive issues that I had had for years all went away. The inflammation was better. Those seasonal allergies that always became a sinus infection or ear infection or bronchial infection, that stopped. I never have those anymore. I still have very slight seasonal allergies. I sneeze and blow my nose, and that's about it. I don't get sick from them anymore. Just my physical well-being changed so radically, so quickly by eating healthy. It wasn't just that I gave up meat and I gave up dairy. I replaced them with healthy fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and legumes, and made those my main choices entirely. I mean, I was very cold turkey giving everything up and just going all in, and radical improvement in my health. So, I couldn't imagine ever going back. It's been 16 years. I'm not perfect, every now and then I'm eating some vegan junk food, if you will, something new comes, a new product comes out and I want to try it. But for the day-to-day, for the most part, I am sticking as close to whole food, plant-based as I can. No oil was a more recent development in the last few years that Jill turned me on to. She and I loved eating lunches together when we were working together at the company that we worked at. And when that company closed, we just knew that we wanted to do something to help other people along their journey for optimal health. And that is why Jill and I are doing these retreats now. And for some people, it's really transformational, and it's very rewarding to us and humbling to us that people trust us with their time for that week to spend with us, and they're vulnerable and they're open to trying things that maybe they wouldn't have tried. And it's exciting the way that this lifestyle can truly impact your health for the better.
Yes.
Did I forget anything, Jill?
No, you did good.
Okay.
I like some of the and the eye was exploded.
Oh
and
yeah, I left out some of that. I left out the gore.
Yeah. It was a very horrible time, but we're past it now. And
Past it.
yes.
It was a blessing. It really was. Yeah.
Looking back, how some things can be blessings. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, thank you very much both for sharing your stories. I know a lot of people who switch to this way of eating have similar stories like that, but I enjoyed both of yours, how, you know, it wasn't an overnight experience. It was, I think, Jill, I meant Kathy, you had referred to it and said it was a little bit of a struggle. And for both of you, yeah, it sounded like it was. And for same for me. But the powerful part is that you both had so many health changes as a result of it. And, working in healthcare, that's one thing that I wish people could see more of, is that they may not realize that some of the issues they're having are related to what they're eating. And it sounds simple to say, just switch what you're eating. It can be a struggle for a lot of people. And, the family aspect plays a role too, but the rewards are endless. So thank you both for sharing your stories. They're both really powerful.
Thanks for having us on, and thank you for the resource that you are, because this is the kind of resource I think that helps inspire people, but also helps keep them going. When you keep watching your types of videos, it kind of feeds and educates you better to continue on that path.
Yeah.
And I want to say something about pizza because, who doesn't love pizza? I have been loving pizza ever since I made the switch with no cheese. And I eat a whole medium pizza sometimes. I almost never have leftovers. I just eat the whole thing. But I just pile it with all the veggies I can. And I like green olives or pepperoncinis to add a little more of a, salty pizzazz, or a little more of a flavor, or those little crushed red peppers. But veggie pizzas are one of my favorites. So, okay.
Agreed.
I have this tofu recipe. We've been making this at retreat, and it's fun because it's so easy, and guests can, it's nice to have in your fridge. So let me show you the finished products here. I'm gonna just tilt the camera down. And here is the tofu that came out of the oven. I don't know, can you see that all right? Yeah,
Yes.
some of them got a little bit cracked, but they are delicious. And so when you have these, my husband calls them fish sticks. When you have these in your refrigerator, it really is such an amazing snack. I mean, just by itself, eat one, they're just delicious. And he'll come by and maybe eat the whole, he'll just walk by and he'll be doing things and he'll take them and eat them. But you can make a sandwich out of them. You can cook them a little bit longer so they get even a little bit crispy on the edges if you like. And so we start with the tofu. And this is an extra firm block that you get in the refrigerated section at your grocery store. You cut out the packaging and let any water go. This extra firm tofu hardly has any liquid in it, but if you have just a regular, like extra firm, you can use a tofu press. Totally not necessary though. You can just, put tofu on a cutting board and put a towel over it and put some weight on it and let it, I'm usually pretty bad about that. But it's interesting that like this tofu is pretty dense, but some of them have a little bit more, water in it. And also, I think some people carry, I don't know if you discovered that freezing your tofu and then thawing it, if you marinate your tofu, it tends to like absorb more of the flavor of your marinade. So that's another thing to keep in mind if you want to just make a little sauce, like a peanut, soy, ginger marinade, and then slice up or cube up your tofu. If it's frozen and then thawed, it'll probably absorb the seasoning that much better. But this one, the seasoning is so good, you don't need to. It's so delicious. And we have both of these recipes on our website, plantlifejourney.com. And the first one is the chicken. You need chicken seasoning or not chicken like. So this is a store brand that we get at Country Life Natural Foods in Michigan, but you can order it online. The R means for retreat. So people ask, what do the R's mean? This not chicken seasoning has, I'm just going to tell you what it has in it. Sea salt, cassava flour, nutritional yeast, onion powder, paprika, granulated garlic, turmeric, parsley flakes, celery seed, ground savory, summer, ground basil, rosemary, thyme, oregano, marjoram, rub saged. The chicken seasoning that's on our website, I put in a container. I just wrote on chicken seasoning on a container, and the recipe is similar. It has a lot of different herbs, and it's really worth making on your own because you'll save some money. And to have this seasoning on hand is great for soups, for tofu scramble. Just, it really is delicious. It really lends a chicken-like flavor. But that poultry seasoning that Janet showed earlier, sometimes if in a pinch, I'll just use that. So that is just a little bit more sagey, you know what I'm saying? That poultry seasoning. When you make this blend, it's a little more, I don't know, just more chicken-like. So I don't know how to explain, like, you feel like with that poultry seasoning, it's very like, I think it's a little bit more pronounced with the sage. I don't know, Kathy, if you have any comments on that.
Yeah, it's the poultry is a little bit more like the Thanksgiving flavors you get out of stuffing. And so if you wanted it to have more of a turkey feel, then I would use the poultry. And if you wanted it to be more neutral, like you would chicken, then I think the chicken is a little more appropriate.
Right. So to bake the tofu, you basically just put some nutritional yeast and this chicken seasoning in a dish, like a flat dish. And so you can use whatever you have, either this one, or you'll make your own, or you can use the poultry seasoning. So there's 3 options for you, or you can do something else, because it doesn't really matter. It's gonna if you have a seasoning that you like, that tastes good, try that. It could have dill in it. Who cares? This is your recipe. You can be creative, which is one of the things I love about when I went whole food plant-based. I was like, whoa, it opens up your whole world to more seasonings and more grains. And wow, life was so boring on the standard American diet. I mean, ugh. So anyway, you just want to slice, as I did here, slice, and then dredge or dip your tofu. Just flip it, dip it, and then you'll put it on a parchment lined baking pan, as I did here, and bake for 30 minutes or more. It really will depend on, you know, your desire for crispiness or chewiness or whatever. But one of my friends always has these in her fridge, because they do make a great add-on for any kind of recipe, any kind of dish, pasta, sandwich, stir fry, snack, and it's great. So I hope you enjoyed the demo. If you have any questions about it.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I made your recipe that's on the website, and maybe I was looking at your recipe or another one. I thought it was yours, but I remembered I made mine in cubes. And I thought you had a marinade before you dipped it in the dry. I thought I mixed coconut aminos in my bowl, and just by themselves put the tofu that I cut in cubes in it to absorb that. And then I put it in the spice, and I mixed the poultry seasoning, about a tablespoon to about a half a cup of nutritional yeast. And it was really tasty. It got crispy, tasty. I made it in my air fryer, and I made a whole block, and my husband and I ate the whole thing together. We loved it. And the next day, he said, "Hey, is there any more of that tofu left?" I said, "No, I have to make it again." So it was a winner. But was that your recipe? Do you have a marinade?
Did I leave out the soy sauce? Yes. Oops, I left that. I think it's because I've made this recipe so many different ways, so many different times. And the one I just posted on our website, I made in Florida at my dad's house. I don't have these at my dad's house. I only have the poultry seasoning and nutritional yeast. And I was like, well, I might as well put a little soy sauce on there So I sprinkled soy sauce. And so and then I added the recipe to our website. So there's a variety of ways you can do it with or without a liquid
Oh, so
portion.
you don't need the batter, the dry batter doesn't need anything for it to stick. Because you could eat plant-based, you could use a plant-based milk, you could use whatever. It just stuck. Oh, cool.
As you can see, it sticks really nicely. I mean, you can pat it down a little bit into the
Mm-hmm.
you know, but like dredge it, pat it. Sometimes when there's white parts, I'll go back and put it on.
And then
And
you cut
that's
it
why,
really thin. You cut it about, it looks like about an eighth or a
yeah,
quarter inch.
pretty thin. If you get too much thinner, you might lose it. And I did have
Yeah.
some kind of fall apart a little bit, but like that one fell apart, but
It's
they're
almost
still
like a
delicious.
chicken, like chicken nuggets. You can make them in different shapes too.
I think they kind of look more chickeny. I actually I prefer the look of these without the soy sauce because there's no darkness like the one. We'll probably change the picture and maybe even redo the recipe now that you're mentioning it. So
Well, it's nice to know there's a lot of flexibility and I find a lot of suggestions. I have so many cookbooks like the ones you mentioned. I look on a lot of websites and usually when I'm looking to make something like a tofu or if I have cabbage or if I have a delicata squash, whatever I'm needing to use up, I'll just search the internet and then I'll find some recipes that sound interesting. I'll combine some just depending on what I have fresh vegetables, what I have a taste for, and just come up with something by combining different recipes. So that's the fun thing about experimenting with other people that are making things. You don't have to be exact. If you don't have one ingredient, substitute with something else. And, based on what you have a taste for.
I just love that you're bringing up, Janet, the creativity involved with this lifestyle because I too enjoy what you're saying. I really do like seeing, oh, what did she do? Or what did he make? How did that recipe come together for them? And what do I feel like doing? What do that's a great, we hope that when people come to our retreats too, that they're just inspired to spend more time in the kitchen because the level of response, we have control over what's going on here in our homes as opposed to eating out in these restaurants.
And your next, tell us a little more about your retreats. You have a few retreats coming up in the spring. You said spring and fall in Michigan?
We do. We're so excited. South Haven, Michigan is such a historic and beautiful tourist destination. We have a big red lighthouse, a beautiful beaches, a quaint little town, and it's all very walkable. So in the summer, we don't have any retreats predominantly because it's madness here and everyone's just here. We may morph into that eventually, I hope. But right now we have retreats in the spring and in the fall when it's still beautiful, but not as inundated with mostly Chicago tourists, I would say, or, vacationers. So we bring people into a 6-day or 4-day program and we give them a binder with like 70 recipes that we've tried and true. And we cook together every day after I teach yoga in the morning. If you don't, it's very, very basic, very stretchy yoga, beginners, good. But if you also want to take a walk instead on the beach or what have you, you can do your own thing or sleep in. We have an agenda and people, sometimes people come and they just have to work. So they'll have to miss some of the day or they just want to sleep or whatever. So anyway, but we do have an agenda and the highlight of the day is the cooking class. And then we have nutrition education. We do a field trip. We go to a health food store on our 6-day program. Kathy, what else am I missing? There's a lot of fun.
We do try and do group talks together to help people understand about habit building so that when they go home, they're kind of prepared to be set up to continue on meal prep and habit forming so that, it's hard when you go home, right? Like it's hard without the support. By the end of the week, everyone's like, oh, I could do this forever because they've been doing it together as a group. But we want them to be able to go home and continue doing this. So yeah, we focus on habits. The recipes, though, like Jill said, the cooking together, I think is really one of our most fun and experiential and empowering part of our retreat, because once you've played with the food and done it yourself, even if you've never cooked before, and we've had people who have come who have never cooked anything before, and we've had also very experienced people come. So either way, it's for you. You go home and now you're equipped, and you can keep making food for yourself, as simple or as complex as you want it to be.
Mhm.
Sounds fun. I know South Haven, is that near St. Joseph's? Is that near?
It's
kind of
it's
in the
north
same-
of St. Joe and south of Saugatuck.
Yeah, it's a beautiful area right on Lake Michigan. In the summer, I've been there on the beaches, and I'm sure it's a fun place to visit and it's what, about an hour from Chicago, an hour and a half?
It's about 2 hours from most places in Chicago. We write the sunset times right into the schedule as well. All of our dinners are 4 courses, and it is a lot of fun. So besides the learning experiential part, immersive lifestyle thing, but it's also a fun week. We usually laugh a lot.
And your recipe selection will grow as you form new habits and continue on that path, and you'll find things that you like that work, and you could eat it every day because it's so delicious. And it's a lot easier than it sounds once you're equipped to be able to do it. Yeah.
Exactly. I love it. All right. Well, we'll wrap it up. I just want to take a moment to thank both of our guests today, and thank anyone who is watching this recording. Be sure to continue to tune in and to join one of our next live events later in the month. We invite you to use the show notes with all of the links that we'll put in with all of the recipes, and we will definitely put the contact information for our guest today in case you would like to reach out and learn more about their events. And we encourage you to try something new, experience a new flavor, spice blend, recipe, or ingredient. Feel free to comment on the YouTube channel and let us know what you chose and how it went. And before we say goodbye, I would like to take a moment and tell you about our next live program that we will be having at the end of February. We're excited to welcome Angela Fischetti as our guest speaker. She is a virtual physical fitness and yoga instructor and a massage therapist specializing in wellness for older adults. Have you ever been on the go with limited space and maybe still want to fit in some exercise or some physical activity? Well, look no further. She will definitely clear that up and show you how to do that. She's going to be demonstrating a workout for us that's perfect for this scenario and that trains every muscle group, large and small. And once again, the date for this event is Thursday, the 29th. So we hope that you come back and join us live and invite a friend with you. Have a good
Carrie,
night.
If they're listening to this, how would they register for that?
Yes, so if you're listening to this and you want to join that, you can go to Eventbrite. All of our events are on Eventbrite, and if you register there, it's free to register. You will get a reminder and the link to join us. And also if you are signed up to be a PBNM, if you are one of our members, that's really easy to do. If you haven't done that already, just go to our website. There's a become a member tab at the top, and you can click that, put in your email. That will put you on our list to get our newsletter and updates on all events that we have. And when you do that, we will be sending out an email. I believe it's the day before each event, and that will give you the information and the Zoom link so you can join us live. So a couple easy ways to ensure that you can participate and join in with our group of like-minded individuals. We would love to see everyone there.
Thank you again for having us, ladies. This has been
Thank
so
you.
fun.
Yeah, so grateful for you both. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a wonderful night.